we applied for a liquor license. We initially had it. We quickly realized that, we weren't just going to open a bar if we wanted to be profitable. So we now had to open a restaurant, which was fine.
Hello everyone, I'm Old Fashioned Dan, and today I'm at Otto's High Dive, one of the most anticipated bar in Orlando ever since they opened. Today I have my friend Justin, one of the co-owner of Otto's High Dive, waiting with me, and let's check it out. Thank you, Justin, meeting with me.
Yeah. I mean, it's been about 2.5 years or so from beginning to end of this project to being open anyways. A lot of that had to do with COVID and supply chain, basic things like, wood and tile were just not easy to get, 6 months to a year lead time on these things. So it's been a slow process, but, I kind of cherished every part of it. It's been a fun project.
This space is just really beautiful. Would you mind share a little bit like the whole process?
So it's kind of really unique how this all happened. I had, back when I was working at Suffering Bastard and everything, I was putting together a business plan. I knew I wanted to open up a rum bar, preferably in Orlando, but it's really hard to open bars in Orange County. So I just, I took my time, made this huge plan, and I was catering an event, and through a little bird, I had heard that there was this building in the Milk District that was, getting ready to be demolished. Took a Hail Mary, set up a meeting with the building owner, who's now my business partner, Giovanni. I showed him my business plan, and he was really into it. And, come to find out later that the reason that he had such a heartfelt connection with my business plan, which originally was just an old Florida rum bar, was because his grandfather had a rum bar in Cuba that touched a lot of the same bases. So once I learned that, and I learned some of the history and talked to his family, I was like, whoa, let's take a step back here. I'm gonna collect some history and some pictures and some stories from his bar, which was back in the 1940s and 50s, back when Cuba was in its heyday, and reconstructed a bar around that. That being said, once we agreed we were opening a Cuban rum bar, the political things started happening. So we applied for a liquor license. We initially had it. This was maybe a month or two before COVID.
Okay.
COVID hits. A lot of big companies went in and bought all the liquor licenses on the market, jacking up the price to more than double. And we quickly realized that, we weren't just going to open a bar at all if we wanted to be profitable. So we now had to open a restaurant, which was fine because La Barra Polar, which you could see a couple of these pictures of the space, was a restaurant and bar. So it would be more authentic and more genuine if we just paid direct homage to that. So, built out a kitchen. One of my good friends, Jake, who's our head chef, I reached out to him. I was like, I believe in you. I see you fast growing as a chef, and I want you to offer you a chance to run your own kitchen and come make us some truly authentic Cuban food. And he was all about it. So he got on board. Next thing you know, opening up a full-blown restaurant,
and it has been very busy.
Yeah,
super hard to getting nowadays.
I was blindsided by the reception we got. We've been real busy, but I'm really thankful for that, and the reception's been great.
So from a bartender to now a bar owner, for you personally, what would you say that's very different?
It's a lot, man. I mean, I admit, I was bartending yesterday. I had so much fun. I was just getting back behind the stick. But I think that the hardest part about becoming an owner is realizing that, I can't just show up and bartend. I have to, all these other factors, which in a high volume restaurant, it's a lot, and managing staff and making sure that the front of the house operations are just as smooth as the bar, just as smooth as the kitchen. But you have to love it. If you know you're a lifer in hospitality, it's because you really enjoy it and you enjoy the fast-paced lifestyle.
So far, are there any challenge you faced that you didn't anticipate?
I think that the hardest part was shifting into a restaurant because opening a bar has this set of factors, and opening a restaurant, you're now doubling that. So, we've handled it really well, but it's a machine now. I have this huge staff, and keeping everybody happy and efficient, and has been challenging. And you always hear the saying about never hire friends.
Yeah.
But ignored that, and I hired a lot of my friends, and they've all been great. So that doesn't necessarily pan out for us because I love my staff. They've all been doing a great job. So
that's awesome, and I'm very happy to hear that.
yeah, for sure. You know, a lot of people have staffing issues when they open up bars and restaurants. For me, it's like they all were waiting at the door.
Post on the Instagram story.
Yeah, quick post, and they came through. But because of that, you know, the caliber of staff that we have is really high, and I'm thankful for that.
Earlier you mentioned this is going to be a Cuban rum bar.
Right.
So compared to what most of the people familiar with currently on the market, what's the differences?
This is actually kind of like an important part for me because, you know, I love rum and I love the history of rum and I love rum cocktails. And I like that it's coming back, but there's a common misconception that rum is tiki. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, tiki bars are just one little aspect of, you know, the vast history of rum. So in this particular case, we like to pay homage to, you know, the 40s and 50s, the heyday of Cuban cocktails, which, you know, you drink them all the time. You just don't realize it. You know, how many times you go to a dive bar and they're serving mojitos or residentes or daiquiris, you know what I mean? That whole era was, you know, the red jacketed cantineros of, you know, these beautiful Cuban rum bars. So they're still rum-focused cocktails, but a little bit more spirit-forward, a little bit more refined. So it's a nice balance between the history of bars that I've worked at, you know, from, you know, fun, like, lighthearted tiki to, like, you know, precise, curated, you know, stuff that we were doing at Ravenous Pig and Courtesy. It's a nice blend of both, so.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I know you're from Puerto Rico originally.
Right.
Are there any cool things from Puerto Rico?
I mean,
behind the bar?
There's a lot of crossover for sure. I mean, we love Puerto Rican rum as well. You can't get Cuban rum, so the next closest thing is Puerto Rican rum. But anyone who's Puerto Rican knows that Barrilito, Ronda Barrilito, is it's the heart of Puerto Rican rum.
Yes.
So we have it in a bunch of our cocktails. We have the 5-star up there as well, which you're not going to see in too many places.
Yeah.
But we push Puerto Rican rum just as much as we do Cuban rum, very similar in styles. But we have rum from every region and every style. Matter of fact, yesterday, we were roasting a pig outside, and a couple of our Puerto Rican friends came and did it right, and it was absolutely delicious. But
I heard 4 pigs, right?
Yeah, 4 pigs. So, abundancia. But our rum collection is going to slowly grow. Some of the challenges now is just storage. I need to build more shelves. I have to build, more places to kind of display those bottles, but those are easy hurdles. So
pretty much because the setting is kind of like when Cuba was the go-to place. It's like London nowadays, right?
Right.
Back in the 40s, 50s.
Yeah, I mean, the best hotels in the world were there, and anyone who was, had money and really cared about cocktails at the time, they went to Cuba. That was the vacation spot to get some of the best.
It's like the OG Mykonos.
Right, exactly. And don't get me wrong, I love all ages of Cuba, but everywhere I go, I see Cuban restaurants and Cuban bars that are this modern day kind of rundown industrial Havana, when back then it was lush, pristine, tropical, really beautiful place to be, and a very important part of cocktail history. So,
and that explains why this place is so beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I owe a lot of that to Giovanni's wife and one of my other partners, Elise. She has a really good attention to detail. So when we were, we're like, oh, we want green tiles on the wall. She's like, well, I think that this particular tile is set up like this would be really great. And she's super talented, and she has a really good eye for this. So we're thankful to have her on board as well.
Yeah, I remember my first time walking in with my friend. I just look around this is very nice. This, remind me of when I was in London drinking at a hotel lobby. It's beautiful, the wood, the shelf, and even the tile on the ground. It just, this detail.
Yeah, I mean, the depth is in the details. So, and you understand too, because you travel a lot, but the more you travel and you go to these bars, you can't, the difference between 99% and 100% is 1,000%, because so many bars get close, but they don't, they don't seal it all the way. So we wanted to make sure that we left no stone unturned, if that makes sense. So I asked some of our friends, who in Orlando has the best, which bar in Orlando has the best training program. Everyone thinks that when they come to Otto's, in general, the cocktail consistency has been very good.
and I can say that like the air libre, is that how you?
Aire libre, yeah.
Yeah.
Just means fresh air.
It has been always taste the same. Doesn't matter who is making it.
Right.
So what is the secret behind like your training program? Because you do have a relatively big menu.
For sure, for sure. I think a lot of that is just drilling, you know. A lot of bars will kind of give the staff specs to a cocktail and then walk away. But there's little details that if you don't constantly drill them on, I mean, my bartenders, you know, some of them hate me for it, but it's just like, I'll stand in the service well and I'll watch and I'll be like, you know, the garnish is correct, but you know, there's not enough mint, or it's, you know, this is angled this way, or the ice is too small. Like all those little details, like is, you know, compounded make huge differences in cocktails. And if someone forgets a rinse on a glass, you know, well, guess what? The cocktail's completely different now. So I think a lot of it is just, you know, looking over their shoulder, you know, but I only had to do it for maybe the first month, and then I didn't even have to worry about it because I'd stand there a whole shift and every cocktail would come out perfect. But I'm really appreciative of my staff for retaining the knowledge rather than like getting relaxed, you know. Being able to train my staff, like a lot of them have histories, you know, but every single one of them has come a long way even just since we opened.
Yeah.
So they're really solid people.
Do you have any word of advice for bartender that's still, you know, early on in their career or still, you know, in their career, hopefully they can open a bar?
Yeah, I mean, actually a couple different things. Like one is don't get burnt out, you know, like it's easy to get in this state of repetition where you feel like you're not going anywhere because you're in the same space for so many hours every day. It's your office, you know what I mean? So, and it's happened to me a dozen times, like, you know, coming up in the industry. So every time that would happen, I would take some time off and I would travel. I would go to New York, I would go to wherever, Austin, Chicago, all these different places. And I would just try to get like a fresh perspective on bartending. And you always come back fired up. People have mixed opinions about competitions or whatever, but I've always done it just because it's a way to break you out of the box, put you in a new setting, meet new people. And like I said, it keeps you from getting burnt out. It keeps you, you know, from getting complacent, which is so common in our industry. But the entire angle that I have for this place is, you know, if and when this is a success, you know, if I'm able to ever open up another concept, I want to take another bartender, put them in a place of ownership, and so on and so forth. And then after, you know, that happens 3 or 4 times, next thing you know, Orlando isn't a place owned by these giant groups anymore.
Yeah.
The bartenders are now the owners of bars, which
It also brings diversity, especially we have a lot of different bartenders from different backgrounds.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And everyone has a great eye and all these great ideas, and I just want to see them come to fruition because, in my opinion, that's what makes Orlando different from a lot of other cities is, you know, if you go to New York or Chicago, it's really easy to open a bar. It's cheap for a liquor license, it's cheap for a space, but, you know, the rate of failure is high because there's such high competition. Here it's the opposite. It's like you can't even get your foot in the door without some serious help. And you know, my best friend,
150K.
yeah, exactly. My best friend Sean and Chris has helped out a lot with that. You know, us all together, we bring a unique set of skills to help open this together. And then, you know, as we go on, you know, we'll grow other bartenders and grow our staff with us.
So it's not written, but pretty much building up the community, pushing the boundary of the whole city as a whole is one of the goal.
I mean, I'm not the first one to do it. I mean, you know, you look at Julian and Arthur, you know, they kind of curved it by going out to Sanford, which was a high risk, you know, to me. I was like, man, I don't know if they're ready for you know, a good cocktail bar, and they're crushing it out there. And you know, I look up a lot to them and took a lot of what I saw through them when we opened Bastard and applied that here. You know, Renee too. Renee's helped grow Hanson's and he's opening a new spot proper, which I'm looking forward to. Is going to be really cool. But, you know, he's come into, you know, majority ownership, like, you know, so I asked them a wealth of questions and that's why they're good friends of mine too. So
for the future of the bar,
I mean, we have a lot of great events coming up. We just launched Sundays, so if you come here on Sundays, we'll be roasting pigs out back, like traditional, like asado out
every
there.
Sunday.
Yeah, and now that we're expanding our hours, you know, we're gonna open earlier.
Okay.
we have a really great coffee program, so we think that if we, open up a little bit earlier, we'll get more of that crowd. Eric Foster, a good friend of ours, we're putting together a hospitality party here with Ilegal Mezcal. So that'll be on a Monday in the near future, which, that's, how those go. Those are gonna be really fun. And then, down the line, I want to have like a competition here later in the year. So we're putting the pieces in for that. And then I've been trying to convince, some of my partners, but we're trying to put like a satellite bar outside, like an old drink cart, so that if you are waiting to get inside, instead of being like, oh, the wait's too much, you're gonna leave out, you can have some, kind of lighthearted, fun cocktails out there, have some oysters while you're waiting to get in, and expand the patio area too. Some of the things that you guys really don't see from the outside perspective is our kitchen is about to double in size. We're adding a lot back there, so our menu too is gonna change and grow and get better and better. Jake's a hell of a leader back there. He's got a good team, and now that we have more space, I think that the stress level will come down a little bit.
Thank you so much. And I really value our conversation, and a lot of people in the industry, but not that many people like you handle personal and professional life very well. And also years of hard work and consistency.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate
it. And now,
that.
Seeing everything pays out, man, it's always very fun drinking here.
I hope so. And if it ever wasn't fun, I'd hope you'd tell me, man, because right now it's just, we pack it out. Everyone looks like they're having a good time. So in my eye, it feels, the energy here is great. And I'm still kind of in shock that it's worked out so well. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So shall we have a drink?
Yeah, let's have a drink.
Also, sure.
I'm gonna go ahead and make you a shaken cocktail and a stir cocktail just to give you some range.
Awesome.
I think we'll start with shaken, and I'm gonna make you Chancleta, which is a mezcal-based cocktail that we're gonna do. The inspiration's kind of from tiger's blood, which is was my favorite flavor of piraguas, which is like Puerto Rican shaved ice. A little guy pushes a cart on the beach, and he has different flavors of shaved ice. So this one is like tiger's blood, which is strawberry, coconut, watermelon. Also, so we're gonna work into that. Base of it that I use is gonna be La Luna. It's one of the few non-espadín mezcals that are cocktail appropriate. Most of them are too expensive to use in cocktails, but this is great quality for the buck. So we're gonna start with that as the base. About bergamot, so I'm gonna go ahead and use Italicus, which is basically bergamotto. It's like a bergamot liqueur. We do a strawberry cordial. It has a little bit of coconut essence in there as well. Lime as the citrus. And then incorporating watermelon into cocktails is a little tricky because it has such a high water content. Yeah.
So you never want to shake directly with the juice. You just end up with a more diluted cocktail. So instead of shaking it with ice, we shake with cold pressed watermelon juice cubes. It's called a juice shake, but this just keeps the dilution appropriate, but also still getting that fresh watermelon flavor. Yeah, that's it for a minute. We ring this with a little bit of coconut maldon salt, fresh coconut flake and maldon salt.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Cheers.
It's really good.
Good.
What was the cordial again?
So the cordial is strawberry. I'll take basically, I take fresh strawberries. I'll freeze them first, and then I'll take that and castor sugar and water, and then I sous vide them together.
Okay.
What happens is when you freeze the fruit before you make the syrup with it breaks down the cell wall.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get 10 times the flavor of if you just sous vide with strawberries. So
Yeah. And I can taste the mezcal.
yeah, absolutely. It's Cupriata mezcal, so it's gonna be kind of like still muted. You're gonna get more of that kind of vegetal mezcal flavor, which I really enjoy. The next one I'm gonna go ahead and make for you is called the Ton of Bricks. Ton of Bricks is going to be more of a stirred refined cocktails. Your old-fashioned drinkers will really enjoy this. But we use a split base, and I talked to you about my affinity for Puerto Rican rum, so we're gonna use Barrilito 3-Star, which is one of my favorites. So it's a split base between Barrilito 3-Star. We do an ounce of that.
This is a great rye for cocktails. It adds a lot of body, and a lot of spice, but it's not such a high proof that it's going to be, dominate everything else. So
Dustin's portfolio, right?
yeah, it is. Vanilla card. So is Italicus. And then we use a little banana liqueur as well. In this case, we're using Tethys Legit. Their liqueurs are always the best, but this is more like bananas Foster instead of like banana runs, which you see in a lot of banana liqueurs. So I just use a quarter ounce of that as well. Put this guy in here. Real fresh bay leaf of work. Slightly decadent flavors.
Thank you.
Very well.
So the Tonka and the Baileys.
Yeah, I wanted the nose to kind of be a big part of this cocktail, so cheers. Cheers.
Thank you.
Salud.
Well, wouldn't it be appropriate to come to a rum bar without taking a shot of rum? So,
Ooh.
Gustoso Guarapo.
Yes.
Kind of my favorite people doing cool things in the rum world right now are in Mexico.
Okay.
So this is a Mexican agricole style rum,
Okay.
although it is pot still, so it's slightly different, but it's the same way. It's absolutely delicious.
Awesome.
I mean, I don't know.
Thank you guys for watching. I'm Old Fashioned Dan, and you are watching That's the Spirit.